super excited today, right? Because I'm going to share something. Abhay, thank you again for all that knowledge sharing that you did. In fact, not only knowledge sharing, I think today I could present this thanks to you. The slides are yours. Okay, I really thank you openly. This is a disclaimer. Yes, my knowledge partner today is my wife who liked last time session. And of course, Abhay, CA Abhay, who I'm not putting it here, but he's there. He will come in as a co-panelist. Everything is sponsored for Hunger Collective. We still are going step by step, but we are moving. We are moving. Okay. This is the tragedy of India. This tragedy has increased further today. It has become slightly more problematic. Means we have to work harder. Simple, right? As society members, we have to work harder. Simple, right? Don't give up hope. Thank you, Rajshri ma'am. Thank you very much, Ashlesha ma'am. God bless. Again, my appeal to you all. I think most of you have done it, but still, in case you want to pass on the word, please do it. Humble request. What do I say about these people? Here, I was here today. This kid, I was here today. Okay, what do I say about these kids? Okay, next time I'm going to go to Danu. Saurabh has invited me. I will go and visit him. Okay, all these lovely colleagues, Ketan Shah, Real Estate, Yogesh Group, right, Saili, right, Jay Shah, virtual accountant, anybody needs, please recommend it. Okay, Hartek, SS Techno. I'm going to Pune on Tuesday, is what I plan, right, to meet this gentleman. Doing very well. Prasad has got orders from Turkey. He has got orders from Malawi, right? So he just said, sir, एक बार मिल ले तेरा थोड़ा मेरे को financial understanding करना है. He's taking a big projects there. I said, of course we could meet, right? This is all. This is God Himself, Anjay ji, helping. कुछ भी MSME का डालो, immediately He will come and say, I'll help you all, right? I don't, right? Very selfless people, right? India is because of these people. George sir, right? His kids. Thank you, Hitin, my kid, right? Krishna. Viral Jain. Viral Jain is looking for investments. Anybody wants to invest in e-commerce, please approach Viral Jain. He's looking for partners because he's growing his business. Okay. Very soon we are going to put the deck up in the Telegram. Okay. Just introduce him to an investment banker. Of course, Pratik is doing very well. Satwa Logistics. I've put everything in one slide. This is Srikunj. That's my kid. He's also doing very well. Right. Mr. Bansal doing extremely well. God bless him. And this is, of course, Sudarshan, who's done extremely well. Now, with a lot of hesitation, my kid gave me this logo, Anuradha Textiles, right? But I'm happy he gave it to me because it's about encouraging everybody who has given it to me. This is our journey. We're still going strong, but right, 1.5 lakh, right? But lots more to do. Okay, so this is where we ended last time's discussion. So we said what has dropped. What has dropped in India, last time's revision, minus 27% is the drop in individual consumers. Minus 47 is the drop in investment by private businesses. So this is where the drop is, minus 27%, big drop in investment by private business. And government stepped in, but government stepping in really did not matter. And then one thing I kept saying all the time, is this is not because of COVID. Lockdown has aggravated the entire situation today. And this is where we are. And this I showed you last time, right? There's a loss of GDP of 20 lakh crore. Everybody is bearing the brunt. And by the way, we still don't have numbers from the informal sector. So it just hit everybody. But yes, I'm not here to spread negative news because as a teacher, I will fail if I keep saying something negative. So I will tell you that we have gone through this crisis in 1991. And then we came out stronger. So what is the theme where I'm going to take part 1, part 2, part 3? The theme is part 1, problem. Part 2, we have been there and we have come out of this problem in 1991. So today that is that part. You know, we have been there, we have come out of this problem. Okay. How did it get better is what I want to explain. So you can draw a parallel between 1991 and today's scenario. But before I get there, I want Abhay, who has done some research on this, to talk about the political sagacity of two gentlemen. You're possibly talking about two leaders who we have, at least one of them we have forgotten to acknowledge. But today, yes, when you look back, you realize that they have done a great job. Abhay, would you like to talk about them, please? Hi.
Good evening, class. Hi. Yeah, so this, our 1991 reform crisis and then reform would be incomplete with our previous former Prime Minister, P.V. Narasimha Rao, and our beloved Prime Minister and Finance Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. As we know, we have celebrated the centenary year of P.V. Narasimha Rao's birthday a few days back. But many of us would not know it because we have forgotten to give enough credit to this man. This man is a very good administrator. He knows more than close to around 15 languages. And in spite of being a minority government, he has pulled off such an economic reform, so the magnitude is still felt to this generation. So we are fortunate enough, the generation after 1991 is fortunate enough to live in an era of liberalization where global brands come in, where we have so much of facilities being accessed, quality education, be it in the field of education, be it in other field, is also very much. He also known as a father of Indian nuclear program because in his times the Pokhran the nuclear test was about to conduct. They were about to conduct it, but unfortunately it went to our former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and he has also acknowledged the same. And we all of us know the bohemi which Vajpayee shared with P.V. Narasimha Rao. So it is a basic. We should give a tribute to the so-called father of our Indian economic reforms. A great man, great administrator. Thank you, sir, for giving us this opportunity to mention his name and to give some credit, sir. Thanks a lot.
So thank you very much, Abhay. God bless. Right. Thank you very, very much. Right. Okay. Here it is. Why did 1991 crisis happen in the first place? Again, the same thing. It is because of poor economic policies. So everything boils down to poor economic policies. And those days, the situation was even more worse because we had only 3 weeks worth of imports. So India owning foreign exchange was absolutely a crime, right? Because we were governed by what is called as FERA, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act. So the government could come and arrest you if you have some dollars with you. That's as bad as it goes. Today, FERA is abolished. And I want a younger generation to realize that it is all about FEMA. FEMA is Foreign Exchange Management Act. So you can keep certain amount of dollars with you for a certain period of time, especially if you're a frequent traveler, etc., etc. Imports were heavily regulated, right? Going abroad, you could go abroad for your education, right? But then there'll be scarce foreign exchange reserves. There'll be scarce foreign exchange reserves. Why did this happen? This happened because of poor economic policies, right? So what really happened was, but good politics. So we went ahead and nationalized the banks, right? So one fine day, a lady, to prove her supremacy over her other contenders, she wanted to occupy the chair left by her father, right? But then she was facing pressure from the other stalwarts of the grand old party, decided once and for all, let's nationalize the banks. We had something which is called as loan melas. Can you believe this? Right, today, all of us are sitting back and talking about NPAs. I want all of you all to realize that there was a minister, right, in India who was responsible for loan melas. So his job was to go across and distribute loans to deserving candidates, so deserving in quotes. So where would the money go? What would happen? Right? Okay. Right. So it's all in the name of, right, ensuring equity. Now, what is equity? That definition we need to go back. Now, how would the banks mask this? The banks would mask it because they would follow accrual-based accounting. What is accrual-based accounting? I give Abhay a loan. Abhay has to pay me interest. So I give 100 rupees as loan. Abhay has to pay me 10 rupees as interest. I accrue it. And I show a loan outstanding of 110. Abhay does not pay 10. So I keep accruing it. And this would continue and continue and continue. Obviously, you are sweeping things under the target. Forget the term willful defaulters. I think people who got the loans possibly never realized that they had to pay it back, right? I think that is where the possible thing is, right? So if you look at those days, it was all about shortages. There was a shortage that was created deliberately so that you would have to go to the government for every single thing. And if you go to the government, obviously, there is a price to pay for that. Then another thing that really happened is there was half-baked industrialization, right? Where in a good logic, possibly, right? We said we have to be self-sufficient. So there was an era of the British Raj upon us that businessmen are basically East India companies. So, right, so they will only come and take money out from us. So tax story karega, and they are not to be respected. And tax rates were as high as 90%. So yes, this was half-baked reforms, and possibly they were not thinking long-term, right? So we decided that we will be self-sufficient, right? And then suddenly we got into a position that India got into a position that we had only 3 weeks worth of imports. Now compare this to today's situation. We are far better. We are far better. Okay, so let's get this right. So for those who are looking at India in a serious crisis, here is the first, because my job is not to spread negativity. I'm again and again, I only give positive examples because you are business people. You go back, the country goes back. Okay, obviously it should be cautious optimism, cautious optimism. Okay, so today we are better off in terms of foreign exchange. Let's get this right. World Bank and IMF, as dear Abhay has mentioned very correctly, simply stop their assistance. Money becomes scarce when you need it the most. The government was on the verge of defaulting. The Indian government had to take a loan, and it was so bad that the government, IMF actually said, lift your gold and give it to us. So normally gold is pledged. So please understand, my friends, what is pledge? You keep the gold, but you can't sell it. Okay, Ganesh, so you keep the gold with you, but you can't sell it. I'm holding a pledge on it, and I'm giving you the loan. But the country's reputation was in so much of tatters that we had to actually airlift gold, go and give it to them, then they would give a loan to us. So can you please understand that, this was a height of, so we are better off. Again, I'm coming to that same thing. We are better off as compared to 1991. Okay. It was so bad that people refused to believe us. It's as simple as that. Now, so even gold, which is a family prestige for many of us, the country's prestige, had to actually be pledged to take it off. Okay. And then we had to go, right? What led to this crisis? Wonderful slide. One is collapse of the Soviet Union, which nobody could predict. So there was a Cold War between two countries, and US very smartly pushed into Soviet Union. Very subtly they pushed it to, right? Knowing that Soviet Union cannot afford a lot of things. This is how politics is played, right? You don't know how to, where the enemy doesn't know where the hit has come from, and absolutely well played by the United States, right? By destroying Soviet Union. If you look at the way they played it in terms of the costly space programs and the arms race, knowing that Soviet Union will have to disintegrate. They cannot go ahead by spending so much. Then we had a very serious problem of the Gulf crisis. The oil prices just shot up, and India was importing oil. Suddenly the current account balance, please remember the term, the forex position just slipped, right? So one by one, all the vicious cycle is starting. We were never encouraging exports, right? So there was nothing known as exports, right? Government is to spend like anything, right? So fiscal deficit was anyway weak. There were absolutely very bad fiscal indiscipline, right? So if you remember a statement which came from the earlier Prime Minister, and I quote Mr. Rajiv Gandhi in the Parliament, when the government spends 1 rupee, hardly 15 paise reaches the poor. And I'm going on record because this is stated in the House of Parliament by Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. So that means 85 paise is being swindled away. And the government is going on borrowing. External debt was very high. Currency was absolutely overvalued. And this is one more thing about India. We were holding ourselves to a fixed peg. So please get the contextual discussion right. Now, why am I taking you through a session in history is then you will get the context right. This generation possibly does not know the context of liberalization because you have enjoyed it without realizing that there is a context to it. Currency overvaluation. Now, tell me something, friends. China undervalues its currency. So you have fixed peg, which will either be overvaluation or undervaluation. China undervalues its currency, pushes exports. India, we had overvalued the currency and we were holding ourselves with the fixed peg. So that means export, there was no incentive to export. Why would I export there if I'm going to get 20 rupees or 15 rupees to $1? Why would I export? Political instability, absolutely bad. In fact, when I was researching this, it is said that, the Chandrasekhar government was in deep shit and they realized that there was a financial crisis. Indian Finance Ministry officials were talking to IMF and World Bank, Chandrasekhar's government, and they were talking. So in the midst of, it was a week-long discussion. After the third day, suddenly they heard the news that Rajiv Gandhi ji had pulled off the support to the Chandrasekhar government, and the government had fallen. So there's a statement that came from World Bank to the finance ministry officials saying, which government are you representing now? So you came in saying you are representing a minority Chandrasekhar government. Which government are you representing now? And when I saw that video, I said, my God, that was the shock that I got. You know, there was so much of political instability. Yes, and there was a downgrade, which was there, about to be downgraded. And then suddenly we realized we were pushed against the wall. We were really pushed against the wall. And then what happened? So what was that? I just explained. Soviet Union just collapsed, right? So India, we were having what is the rupee agreements with Soviet, right? But then when Soviet Union collapsed, obviously that agreement is null and void, right? Wonderful again. Iraq and Kuwait, right? What really happened is Iraq attacked Kuwait and suddenly the oil prices went spiraling. Currency overvaluation, as I said, you know, completely overvalued, not at all true to the market value, right? We had a automatic debt monetization scheme. So whatever government right, would take debt, that was automatically monetized by printing more currency. That means your currency has no value. Achha, by the way, a very important clarification. A country, some of you all believe a country can print only that currency limited to its gold reserves. That is wrong, completely wrong. A country can technically print any amount of currency. A country can technically print any amount of currency. But when it does so, it has no linkage with gold reserves. Again and again, I'm saying this, no linkage with gold reserves. But if it does it, it can lead to hyperinflation. That's what happened in Zimbabwe and Venezuela. So yes, can a country print any amount of currency? Theoretically, yes. Practically, no, because it may lead to hyperinflation. Look at what has happened in India, right? Those days, fiscal indiscipline, automatic monetization of that debt, that things continue. That means that currency has no value at all. Wonderful point again. From November 89 to May 91, right? We had three prime ministers. We had three prime ministers, and each one, you know, see, when you are at a short-term basis, nobody is looking at you. No foreigner wants to come and invest in India because it's political instability. That is where the solution to today's problems lies. The solution to today's problems lies. First, what was enacted was fiscal reforms. Subsidies were reduced. Today, subsidies are not being reduced. Subsidies are being targeted. Okay. Government was practically into everything. So government those days was into manufacturing bread, modern foods. Government was into running hotels. So one of the things that happened subsequently, maybe because of World Bank pressure, I'm not getting there. You can read literature about that, but I don't know whether we had a choice, was disinvestment program. This was followed from Mrs. Thatcher's entire program, right, which is privatization program in UK. So Mrs. Thatcher in UK came out with a wonderful program known as privatization. So she asked a simple question: why should be government there be in everything? Okay. If you have heard this statement earlier, I'm sorry, but the original statement is from Mrs. Thatcher, which said, less government, more governance. So what is this entire thing about disinvestment? Is that why should government be in everything? Let's disinvest. Now, what is disinvest is privatize. So government came out, modern foods was privatized. It was given out to Hindustan Lever. Hindustan Lever took it up. Hindustan Lever turned around that loss-making unit. They made it even more better. Jobs were lost, no doubt, but then it was decent settlements that were given to employees, right? Efficiency was brought in. I think more than efficiency, what was brought in was effectiveness. So one very important management principle. I think all of us have efficiency ratios, which is good. But what is important at the top management, at the promoter owner level, is effectiveness. Are you taking the right decisions? Okay. That is where maybe a lower rung employee can only be efficient, but the owner, the top man, has to be effective. So efficiency is good, but privatization brought in effectiveness also. They brought in effectiveness also. Of course, I'm not saying that privatization is the medicine for all evils. No way I'm saying that. But yes, the government started selling its stake, and the government got that money, and the government then started using that for social infrastructure, which explains LIC's privatization now, So you can see a parallel from 1991 to today also. Tax reforms came in, tax was reduced substantially. So they said, we'll increase the tax base, 90% tax here. What do you mean 90% tax? Who would like to pay 90% tax? Obviously, you're pushing that guy to be less tax compliant. So tax rate was progressively reduced and the tax base was increased. This government is again trying to do that. Now, one thing good that has happened because of COVID is suddenly the government is trying to push a lot of reforms for the MSME sector, which I thought was missing in the earlier budgets. So if you look at it, I'm not getting into political lobbying and thinking like that, but the fact of the matter is somewhere down the line now suddenly that MSME is being talked about, Udyog Aadhar is important and you need to look at MSME sector. That was possibly missing before COVID, possibly missing during COVID. Yes, there was big reforms carried out in the monetary and financial sector reforms. Earlier, you go to any bank, you will have the same loan rate, and the loan rate was around 18%, 18%. Okay, and right, your deposit rate was around 12%. So, but then that was effectively, they tried to bridge it. They said free pricing. Banks can decide their deposit rate. Banks can decide their lending rate. Let's have competition. See the changes. MRTP, one of the worst acts ever. So anybody who grows bigger would immediately come under MRTP. Now that is gone. And very important thing that happened was rationalization of exchange rate policy. Trade policy was reformed, absolutely reformed. And we became a signatory to WTO and said, let's globalize. LPG, liberalize, privatize, globalize. The government also started promoting foreign investment. Earlier, foreign investment means no. We drove back Coca-Cola. So we asked Coke to disclose their formula. So Coke was there in India earlier. And we had a minister who went back and said, disclose the formula. And Coke said, boss, this is our trade secret. How can we disclose our formula? I said, no, you have to do it if you want to be in India. He said, okay, to hell with India. Thank you, we are leaving. Please understand, so these were the norms. Foreign companies were looked with direct suspicion. If you want to be in India, you have to be listed. So Cadbury's was forced to be listed. Host of these companies were forced to be listed. And then who will decide the price at which the shares would be issued? Right, post 91, we said, if you don't want to remain listed, you can move out. Cadbury is immediately delisted. And they said, so if you want to delist, you can. I know some of you are listed, so I won't tell you all. You have to buy 90% stake from the public. Of course, but being a listed company has a lot of advantages though. But Cadbury said, no, we want to delist. Grindwell Norton delisted, right? But the fact of the matter is, foreign money was welcome. Yes, it's a tribute to these two gentlemen, especially P.V. Narasimha Rao, who I think, history remembers for the Babri Masjid demolition. But I think he is, as Abhay said very correctly, architect of modern reforms in India. I think this slide is where I will end today's session. This gives you an idea about what we will discuss next time. But before that, let me go on to chat. According to Economic Survey 2018-19 Super Point Gani, 93% of the total workforce in India is from the unorganized sector, which is where Monday we will talk about labor reforms. Why does a VIP industries have to move out of India and go to China for expanding is a discussion that we should have. How can the state government come with labor reforms? You can't have a labor reform for 3 years and say temporary suspension. You need to actually come out with labor reforms. What do you mean? 3 years, labor reforms are being suspended. After 3 years, I come and set up base. You will again come and put me under draconian labor laws. Yes, one more comment from the dear colleague. He says, UK economy has grown in July as gradual recovery continues. Yes. So slowly we'll see a gradual recovery, no doubt about it. But I certainly believe that next quarter will be bad. And I again hope that I'll be wrong on this. Yes, this is where there's a slide which I have forgotten to include today, right, which my dear friend has shared with me. India's debt is around 73% of GDP. And after the current moves, it will go to 88%, which is where Advait, your question last time, Mone, what would happen if you're junk status? Very good point. What would happen is if you are a junk status, nobody would hit. And one more question that Advait asked, which forced me to think was, is Harshad Mehta involved in 1991? The answer to that, Mone, is, that's why I asked you for the date. Harshad Mehta was the beneficiary of 1991 reforms. So he just happened to be there in the stock markets at the right time. Yes, what is the mistake that Harshad Mehta did, which was completely illegal, that he routed bank money to stock markets. Sorry, colleagues, I'll just take 30-second detour. He routed bank money into stock markets, which is completely illegal. And we had one more colleague speaking about it. I think one of the finance professors. The other person who did was it, Ketan Parekh. So Harshad Mehta directed SBI's money into State Bank of India's money into stock markets. Ketan Parekh used the cooperative bank route to go into the stock markets. When foreign companies delist, what happens to the shares already bought? Okay, so Mona, to answer your question, Advait, when foreign companies get delisted, they have to make an open offer. So they can't just go out like that. You have to make an open offer to all those shareholders who hold the shares. You'll have to buy it back at a price. Of course, it is the shareholders' discretion whether they want to give the shares. So Cadbury's got most of the shares back. 95% is what they got back. 5% shareholders are still holding Cadbury shares because but even if after delisting, you'll keep getting dividends. You'll keep getting share of the profits. So first, when a company decides to delist, it has to make an open offer. So all the shareholders can please offer their shares. Any pending shareholder who does not want to offer the shares will keep getting dividends. Only thing is the shares will not be listed. There will not be market price for that. So this is where possibly the government can do. Are you prepared yourself for that? Okay. Don't take it verbatim. Think about it. All right. You can take a photo and screenshot if you want. But if you can put your thinking caps on, I think I'll be very happy. All right. The source is McKinsey anyway. And I'm not saying McKinsey is really, really good. But then McKinsey gives you a good idea, right? McKinsey gives you a good idea. We are going to discuss much more than this. One more source, if you get time, please read India Today. The latest edition of India Today, they are also talking about it. So that also you could read. I want to end this wonderful class on a positive news. The government is planning to offer, so one more hint for Monday's class is 1.6 trillion package to lure global manufacturers. Okay. Auto sectors, its Onam is looking well. Maharashtra and Kerala account for maximum auto sales, right? NABARD has already disbursed 1.2 trillion crop loan for farmers. It looks like there's going to be a bumper crop. So let's end this discussion on a positive note. So there is definitely people who are doing well. Govind, Bete, can you please tell everybody what you told me with your permission, please? The idea is to make them, don't give numbers. The idea is to make everybody feel good that we can do it. Go ahead, Govind.
Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar.
Thank you for this opportunity. I just want to say that if we have a very strong fiscal discipline, banks will chase us for business. And that is a secret that we are in a position today to get good offers from the banks. We had to choose which one to go for, and both are excellent offers. And with kind support from you, sir, we have decided to go ahead with one bank, sir.
You were also mentioning, Govind Bete, I'm sorry I called you unplanned, but that is where you speak from your heart. So there are all these kids here and you're going on record. You also mentioned that you're doing pretty well. So would you like to mention that again to everybody here?
Yes, sir. We are into automotive sector and it is not an easy sector to be in. The first quarter was washed out. The second is kind of better right now, but we are extremely positive for the next quarter and we have good schedules for our customers. Things are actually very good right now. And all the customers are very, very upbeat about the next quarter now. We are looking forward to the business always. And things are actually better than pre-COVID times, I would say, quite frankly.
So that's it. And I tell you two things that, when you hear it from the horse's mouth, this is a dear student, right? What else can I say? I think that's the best time to stop the lecture. Thank you very, very much. Namaskar. Thank you, Shanti ma'am. God bless, right? Thank you very much, Govind. Thank you, Abhay. Mona, thank you very, very much. Thank you again, all of you all. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.